휴대폰을 먼저 보게 돼. 참 많이 변했다는가. 세상에서 제일 행복한 순간 널 만나고 매일 겪게 돼. 매일 넌 감사하죠. 그대가 곁에 있어서 언제나 오늘 갓길.
I need to point out to you for your safety and convenience. Your attention, please. This being a U.S. Coast Guard inspected vessel, she carries all required safety equipment, including, of course, life jackets, which we have in two different places. On the upper deck, in that large silver box at the right rear of the upper deck. Downstairs, they're right where you came on board the boat, underneath the right or starboard side staircase. They are for emergencies only. Please don't remove them or tamper with them. You're free, of course, to move around, but watch your step at all times. And please don't stand on the seats, sit on the railings, or sit in the backs of the seats. This is for your own safety, as well as safety of our seats. Be sure to use the handrails going up and down the stairs. And as you enter or exit the salon, you must step up and over a threshold, so watch your step there. Inside the salon, you'll find our restrooms, or heads, as they're called on the boat. They're actually downstairs in the salon. You go down those stairs at the left front of the salon, and you'll find our two restrooms. Once in there, you'll be using marine toilets. They're very sensitive and they clog very easily. So please only put things in them that belong there. Also downstairs, we have a full-service bar! Woo! Yeah, the bar's got some fans. We have hot drinks, cold drinks, soft drinks, hard drinks, bottles of water, beer, snacks, hot dogs, all kinds of good stuff down at the bar. Those of you who've already found the bar, raise your drinks in triumph. All right. For the rest of you, don't those look good? Also at the bar, we have these lovely Summer of George souvenir t-shirts. Got the Ferris wheel on there, the Bean, Buckingham Fountain, all the major buildings, and of course this fine vessel. Here's the deal, you buy one of our shirts, and you walk around wearing it, giving us free advertising. Lastly, we go under 4 very low bridges, each one twice. Our guide will warn you about those bridges as we approach, but look ahead before you stand up on the upper deck. And look ahead before you come up the stairs to make sure we're not about to go under a low bridge. And please resist the temptation to reach up and touch the low bridges. If you're curious, take my word for it, the bridges feel like steel. Enough of me. I'm going to mic over to Billy, our tour guide. Billy is a fountain of knowledge, a plethora of tidbits, a cornucopia of information. This is his first tour of the year, so we'll see how much he remembers. Here's Billy.
Hi everybody. Yeah, he's right. This is my first tour back for the season, so this is always the fun one, see what we remember. And actually, we're not pulling away quite yet. Give me a second to get situated here, but all right. decide how close we are to pulling away what I want to start off with here. There's a couple construction sites that I'm excited to show you guys. They actually broke ground and they're working on them. We'll see that a little bit later. Alright, we're pulling the ramps, so we're going to get going away very shortly here. Let's see. Let's start off talking about this. Can we get a good drum roll going? What do you think of this hat? Yeah, the sun's going to be coming out shortly. I'm not putting on the sunglasses for no reason. I was checking the radar and everything. This is my first time wearing this hat in almost a year. It was a gift from my mom. It's the best hat for this job ever. All right. Let's decide how we want to start, what we want to start talking about. I'm your tour guide, Billy. I was born over that way on the south side. Now I live over that way on the north side. I work over that way in the medical district, and I also work here on the weekends in the summer. So I'm a Chicagoan, a very tired one. Where are my fellow Chicagoans? All right, a lot of us, pretty good. I think we're outnumbering everybody else. Cool. Where are my non-Chicagoans? All right, maybe we don't outnumber them. And all right. How do I want to do this? It's always kind of fun. Actually, let's start off with this. How many international travelers do we have? How many people from outside the United States? All right, pretty decent amount. Curious, over here, where are you coming in from? Where are you coming in from? We got India. We got some moves for India. Over here, we got the Philippines. Yeah, you got some applause for the Philippines here. Budapest? Ah, all right, cool. That's fun to say, Budapest. Everybody on the count of three, let's say Budapest. 1, 2, 3. Fun to say, right? All right, who else outside of the country? I think we had a group over here. We got the Philippines, all right. more applause for the Philippines. Anyone else outside of the country? Anyone from within the country? Yeah, a lot of us are. Yeah, that's the only other option. That's the joke. It's either you're outside of the country or you're inside. All right, let's do it this way. We're already moving. From the count of three, I want everyone to shout out where you're coming in from. It's a fun way to get the energy going. Introduce yourselves to your neighbors. So on the count of three, say where you're coming in from. Don't be shy. 1, 2, 3. All right, we got Idaho very loudly. We got Los Angeles after the buzzer. We got Vegas. Yeah. We're coming in from all over. That's pretty cool. Also, I got a question for the people from Idaho. Why do potatoes go bad in like 2 weeks now? What's going on? They were last year's potatoes. Used to buy a 5-pound bag of potatoes, was good for months. Now it's just like half an hour. Oh, I should talk about the tour instead of potatoes. All right, we are going to be talking about this building later. We're also going to wave at the people on the Wendella. This building, very unique. We're actually going to talk about that architect's other works. We're going to kind of connect it to this towards the end. We have the Reed here on our right, which is a very cool little project. This is going to be adding housing. It's a nice building. And what's cool about Chicago is we keep adding housing. We actually are building housing here. But the prices keep going up as well. Like something's going wrong there. They just keep building luxury stuff. To our right, we have a very big dog who may be part horse. In this little park over here, this is actually a cool thing we want to do. We actually want to expand quite a bit. I hear another dog. My head. How many of you have been to the Riverwalk downtown? Cool little program, right? What do we think about it? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Yeah, we like it. It's a really cool idea. We actually want to expand it. We want to bring the Riverwalk from downtown, where it is currently, and bring it all the way south to Chinatown. So we want our whole riverfront to be that. And it's a really cool idea. And it was a discussion with the city council, and they said they wanted to get that done within a decade. Chicagoans, does that seem even remotely possible? Thank you. No, it is not possible. This, by the way, was 3 years ago. So I guess they're really going to have to step things up over the next 7. Now, ahead of us, I want to start talking about, oh, yeah, we got a good view of this one over here on our right. You got this tall brownish building with that statue at the very top of it. That is the Chicago Board of Trade, and the statue on it makes it very unique. You don't see that on a lot of buildings. The statue is the statue of Ceres. Ceres being the Roman goddess of the harvest. Because Chicago was not a farm city. We never were that. We couldn't really be, even if we wanted to. We were like a farm logistics hub. That's what really Chicago started out as. We moved all that farm product from the Midwest, Northwest, all over the country. So Ceres is up there, sort of the unofficial patron saint of the city, kind of what started it all. And notably, the statue of Ceres, there's no face on it. And that's not trying to say anything symbolically. They just didn't want to pay a sculptor to carve it because their theory was that no building would be tall enough that you could ever tell anything. It's not the case. In fact, the Sears Tower went up pretty close. It was very obvious. Now, we have another one right over here close to us. Actually, you know what? This is my first one back. I just want to give you a bonus, a little bit of detail here. This building down here with the blue windows, this makes ice at night using cheaper electricity prices and then pumps ice water through all these buildings around here. It's actually maps of online, like which station service the others. So a lot of our buildings down here are large enough that they're water cooled rather than like air cooled. I think it's a really cool concept. Like a computer, if you've ever built one of those. Now, beyond it, you got that tall black building there. And I want you to notice how this ends at varying heights. That's what I want you to notice from this angle. Can anyone name that building for me? Sears Tower is correct, yes. Willis Tower, you're technically not incorrect, but we all call it the Sears Tower here. Chicagoans refuse to learn new names for stuff. We're just not going to do that. Sears Tower was the tallest building in the world for 30 years. It is still the tallest building in Chicago, 1,451 feet tall, and it supports itself using what is called a bundled tube system, now known as the Second School of Chicago Architecture. That bundled tube system was inspired by cigarettes. Bruce Graham and Fazlur Khan had a meeting at a bar, and they were talking over how they were going to build the tallest building in the world, and Bruce Graham came up with the idea. He reaches into a bowl of cigarettes, apparently that was a thing in bars back in those days, and grabs one, shows how weak that is. Then he grabs several, shows how much stronger that is, and they come up with the idea of not building one Sears Tower, building 9 separate towers banded together to hold up the weight of the entire structure as a whole. So it's 9 separate skyscrapers holding together the weight of the entire building. Like, you don't actually have to go through doorways or anything, it is all interconnected, but structurally, 9 separate towers working together to hold up that massive amount of weight and to fight all that wind force that you got to deal with. And it is not the tallest building in the world anymore, but it is the blueprint of every building taller than this. You're going to see that Second School of Chicago architectural style throughout the entire world. Anything taller than this is going to be built in that style, up to and including the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, tallest building in the world currently, and that is actually the same firm, Skidmore, Owens & Merrill, that designed both of them. Now we're going to go under a bridge here, and that guy is going to film us, and I'm going to wave at him. Hello. We're all on camera. Nobody doing anything illegal? Is recording it? All right, while we're going underneath these bridges, I want to talk a little bit about these. Because our bridges are a very vital part of Chicago's infrastructure, and this is a style of bridge that is so ubiquitous in Chicago that we call them Chicago bridges. They're Chicago-style bridges, that's the architectural term for it. It's 2 trunnions. It's called a trunnion bascule bridge. A trunnion is an axle that rotates, lifts each lift of the bridge, and then just it moves very quick, very rapidly. It's a very cool, very efficient style. Doesn't require that much maintenance. They do still get maintained, I want to be clear on that. But it doesn't require much, and they have been functioning for almost a century at this point. It's a very effective style. The bridges do go up for free Wednesdays and Saturdays throughout the summer, throughout our boating season, and on any off day, like a Thursday or a Friday or in the winter, you got to get through. You can do it. You got to call the city ahead of time. You got to schedule the bridge lifts, and you got to pay for each one. Each bridge will cost you $1,000. That's how we kind of dissuade you from doing it, and you don't see it very often. Now here to our left, you have underneath these buildings, underneath these buildings you'll see these train yards down here, and you'll see the buildings above those train yards. And the train yards down there were actually there first. The buildings were added later, which means legally the buildings don't own that land. They're paying rent on air, what's called air rights. They're renting air above land that they don't own, and that is a legal concept that was invented right here. Now, the river must be pretty high today, so this feels close. This building on our left, this was the first building built using air rights. This, you can also see, has these interesting, almost Sphinx-like styles on the side. They're trying to distribute the weight of this building around those train yards because the trains do still continue underneath this. My point is you have to get really clever with your engineering, and you have to operate train yards in your basement. And you're going to see a lot of different styles for that. This is one of my favorites here. See ahead of us and on our left, this is the Boeing building. See that metallic trapezoid here on the corner? First off, when was the last time you heard the word trapezoid? Geometry class, right? And it never came up again. But that trapezoid, if you're an engineer, you are aware of it. It's a very strong shape, and it's actually holding up that corner of the building from the air. This is not putting weight towards the foundation, it's putting weight towards the sky. All the weight is distributed up towards that trapezoid, and this allows this corner of the building to be essentially freestanding above those train yards. That was a clever trick to get around it. And the Boeing building here is also notable because it has that clock tower up there, which is the third tallest clock tower in the United States. All right, we are great at pretending to care. Also notable, Boeing building, not built by Boeing. Don't worry about it, you're good. A little, it was originally the Morton Salt Company building. A little bit of a joke, but yeah, that's what I'm going for here. Now this here on our left, I love this building. This is in my top 3 favorites right here. Right now, we're going to talk about this at the end of the tour. I want you to see it from this angle and just kind of appreciate it, take pictures and all that. Notice that razor thin foundation at the bottom. How cool is that? What do we think about this? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Isn't it cool? There actually is a reason for this. We're going to go into all the details of that. We'll talk about it later. But I really just want you to appreciate it from here, because I think this is a really awesome, iconic structure. Unfortunately, there's no cool name to it yet. It's just 150 North Riverside. It is also notable because my friend Bruce works there. Give it up for Bruce. I guess he's probably not there today. 1, it's a Sunday, and 2, it's like a holiday weekend, but he does work over there. All right, I'm going to step down a little bit. You're going to want to watch your heads here. So we go underneath the bridge. This is our first low bridge of the tour. So careful, anyone taller than me. And again, you don't want to touch these bridges. They are gross. Like I said, these are about a century old, and a bridge cleaner, not a thing. All right, and back above ground. You guys seem to have fun onto that bridge. It's like a highlight so far. Now ahead of us, we have the north branch of the river. We're going to head up there. I'm going to show you a little bit of the sights up here. Over here to our right is the main branch. We're going to go down this way eventually, and then we're going to end the tour back down the south branch again. So you're going to see a little bit of everything in Chicago. Our boat goes a little bit further than the others. Very exciting. We're going to have fun with that. But the first thing I want to start off with is this bridge ahead of us. It's very iconic. You actually see this in a lot of Chicago photos. If you have any friends who got married in Chicago, that is in the background of the wedding shots, I guarantee it. At least one of them has that. That bridge, as we get closer to it, if you look to the right of it, you may notice, wait a minute, that doesn't look like it's hooked up to anything. And you'd be right on that. But if you look to the left of the bridge, you would notice, hey, that definitely isn't hooked up to anything. What is the point of this bridge? And it turns out, really isn't one. This bridge is no longer really useful. They used to use this to run a cargo train all the way downtown. You'll actually see a lot of buildings on our right-hand side with these openings in the structure itself that was designed to accommodate that freight train. Those tracks were torn up a long time ago. We don't really use this bridge anymore. We do use it a little. For 1 minute per year, they lower this bridge and drive a truck across it to prove that it is in fact still a bridge and the government can't make them tear it down yet. So they want to continue to have the land use rights over the river, so this only operates for about a minute a year, and we just keep letting that scam go, I guess. Now, I'm going to step down again because we have another low bridge coming up here, so watch your heads. And while we're going underneath this bridge, I want to talk a little bit about an infrastructure problem we had in Chicago. It involves these wooden tubes. Hello. Let's wave to those people. You guys really like strangers. Big fans. But these wooden tubes on the sides of the bridges. That's what I was going to talk about. Those wooden tubes, they're called pilings. and they're used to defend the bridge's structure from a passing boat getting knocked into it. Very simple little thing. But that one just south of the Kinzie Street Bridge, the one we just passed, 1992 led to a bit of a problem. Because in 1992, that piling punctured a train tunnel underneath the river when they replaced it. And that train tunnel turns out to be historically very, very, very strange. Because it was not our subway system. It wasn't the blue line, it was not the red line, it wasn't our transit system at all. It was much stranger and much more Chicago. It was an old, illegally built cargo train running underneath the city without anyone's permission. What happened was, back in the day, telecommunications company. I believe they're now AT&T. It was a different company in those days though. They got permission to build telephone wires underneath the river to connect all these buildings to a telecommunications network. And they decided, while we're down here spending all this money digging this tunnel, why don't we run a train through it to make back some of that money? So they do it. They build this 6-foot-tall illegal train underneath the city, and it originally moves coal and cargo to all these basements down here, and then eventually we stop running it. We start to forget about it. Over the course of decades, stops being useful. Then in 1992, that piling's driven into the soil and punctures that train tunnel, and then the Chicago River starts draining into that tunnel. And then that tunnel starts draining into the basements of every building throughout the entire downtown area. This causes rolling blackouts throughout the city, $36.5 million in damages, and economists estimate altogether ended up costing Chicago roughly $2 billion when you factor in lost productivity. My favorite part of the story is the incredibly strange way in which it was discovered. One of the workers went to the basement of the merchandise mart and sees there's water everywhere. His entire basement is flooded. He calls the city on a radio in a panic. Please get down here as soon as you can. The water main is burst and it's destroying the basement, it's destroying the foundation. Wait a minute, I don't think it's a water main, something weird is happening. There are fish in the basement. I repeat, there are fish in the basement. That's how we realized it's the river draining everything. Probably not. That is the hilliest part of our city. We don't really have hills. We actually had to build these hills ourselves. These are man-made. These aren't even natural. And we're a very, very, very flat city is my point. And we're built very close to the water line. And Chicago was built largely on what is technically swampland. And that means building in Chicago is remarkably expensive. And he came up with a solution. He's like, you know what? Those other guys are right. You cannot afford to dig underneath the city and build a traditional sewer system, but we can't afford to lift the city up by hand and then build a sewer system under this new elevated city. So that's what we did. We lifted up the entire city of Chicago. We put up the entire city on these things called jack screws. Think like a modern car jack. And you'd hire a team of men known as building raisers to lift that building up a little bit at a time. And from 1850 to 1868, 18 years, we lifted up the entire city of Chicago by 14 feet. Ooh. There you go, that's a better response. We lifted up the entire city and y'all just stared at me blankly like, you know, whatever, we do that every month. All right, we'll come back to that. I do have a lot more I want to talk about on that whole infrastructure project. But here on our right, this building right here, does anyone remember a company called Montgomery Wards? Yeah, this was their warehouse. And this is a really interesting structure. It's a massive structure. Actually, you know, I should explain what Montgomery Wards, for those who aren't aware. It was a mail order catalog business. That was a massive industry in Chicago. It was basically Amazon in the days of the railroad. They'd mail out your product, really quick, efficient little system. This is a large enough warehouse, and it's a horizontal enough warehouse that the workers all had to be trained in roller skating to get around quickly enough to get all those products out. You know, something like an Amazon warehouse but on wheels. It sounds very dangerous to me, but that was their plan. They also renovated this recently. The brickwork on it used to be covered over in white paint. When they renovated this into Groupon, which it was previously, they uncovered that white paint, re-uncovered that brickwork, which I think looks a lot better. Do we agree the brickwork gives it an interesting look? Yes. Now here to our right, we also have a lot of construction going on over here as well. This is Goose Island. Goose Island, you'd probably recognize mostly for the name of the Goose Island Brewery. But Goose Island here is a man-made island. We commissioned this, we built it. It was originally commissioned by our first mayor, Mayor William Ogden. And why is Goose Island called Goose Island? It's an island, some geese lived on it. We're not a creative people. What do you? That's where the name comes from now. And here ahead of us this Tribune area, this is what is going to be Chicago's casino. Has anyone seen plans for that? Yeah, we're going to be building a casino over here. It's been a nightmare. There's been a lot of things that have changed. We built a temporary one. It turns out to kind of underperform, so we're wondering if it's even going to go in. It is. We are breaking ground on it. It's some interesting. I was about to go off on transit stuff we have coming through here and changes to the roadways, but I doubt anybody cares but me. But this area, we're going to see a lot of construction on it. It's always interesting to see, but not really a lot to point at. So I'm going to finish talking about what I was talking about, that sewer system. So back to where I was. So we lift up the entire city by 14 feet. There you go. That is called the raising of Chicago. And you can actually look up that term on your phone and flip over to the images tab for just a second. You can see what this thing looked like. It was a really cool project. You'll see dozens of people underneath these buildings lifting them up. And if you zoom in, pinch and zoom on it, you can see people on the balconies watching their view change every hour. Because everything stayed open. While we were lifting up the entire city to build that sewer system, you didn't get a day off work. You just had to walk up a new flight of stairs the next morning. That's basically how that whole thing worked. And why? That seems really crazy. Why would you do it that way? Well, remember, to build a sewer system, you need drainage. To have drainage, you need elevation. You need to be able to use gravity. We didn't have any elevation, so we built our own using literal muscle power. Really cool way to handle it. Lift up the entire city. All that dirty water is suddenly able to drain into the river, which used to be the backbone of Chicago's sewer system. I want to emphasize really hard, used to be. It's not anymore. These tours would not be very popular if that was still the case. But all that dirty water would have drained into the river, and then it would have flowed out towards Lake Michigan, and that is where the city takes its drinking water supply from. And hold up, that sounds like an issue too, doesn't it? So as step 2 of building a sewer system in Chicago, we have to figure out how to get all that dirty water away from us. And we decide to solve our problem by making it someone else's problem. We reverse the course of this river and send all the water to St. Louis instead. Yeah, guess which city didn't like that plan very much? St. Louis. Anyone from St. Louis, by the way? Cool. I don't have to apologize at all. So the plan is we're going to reverse the course of this river. That's what Ellis Chesbrough pitches, and it turns out to actually be surprisingly possible. It was the biggest engineering project in the world at that point. This was a huge undertaking. Actually, just a little bit of a spoiler. After we finished the canal system we used to reverse our river, those same engineers were hired to construct the Panama Canal shortly thereafter. So they had this very specific expertise. So our plan to reverse the river is we're going to build a canal on the southwest side of the city. It's called the Shipping and Sanitary Canal. It took about a decade to build and the equivalent of $1 billion in today's money. So this was a huge undertaking. It was a engineering marvel. To build this canal, we constructed the largest earth-moving vessel in history, this giant system of conveyor belts. And in typical Chicago fashion, it broke within hours of us turning it on, and we never fixed it. So we decided to go right back to guys with shovels all day, every day. At that point, it would have been a lot of Irish people emigrating into Chicago, and they were largely moving to Bridgeport, which is where we were building this area, which is why it's still largely like an Irish area over there. A lot of the history of it there. That was startling. We had a boat kind of turning into our right. So we are reversing this river. We build this canal. We wait. It's about a 10-year project. 10 years, we're almost done with it. 9.5 years into this decade-long project, St. Louis decides to start filing legal action in the courts. Nobody actually knows why they waited so long. It does seem really strange. If they're about to reverse a river and we're completely public about it, why not file it year 1? But they don't. They wait 9.5 years in those projects, and they try to get an injunction to stop it. And before that court case can even go through, it's coming to the courts. We're really skeptical. We have no idea if we're going to win it. Even if we do win that court case, we're going to have to pay a lawyer. They're going to slow it down dramatically. It might take decades. And you have to pay that lawyer for decades. So maybe it'll be cheaper and easier to ask forgiveness after rather than permission before. So under the cover of darkness, January 2nd, 1900, this guy, well, not this one guy, this group of guys in top hats, literally the capitalists that have built this canal, they go down to that temporary dam holding back all the water, and they blow it up. and they decided to just open it that way, wire it up dynamite, blow up that temporary dam. All the water starts flowing the opposite direction down towards St. Louis, as it has flowed ever since. And once you reverse the river, you can no longer re-reverse it, so we won. But the old joke goes that St. Louis got the last laugh on us. So they took all that dirty water we sent them, followed it up, and then sent it right back to us as Budweiser. That joke's older than me, but that's a good one. We actually had, I think it was like the vice president of Anheuser-Busch, and he was like, yeah, no, I approve of it, that's good. All right, we have another low bridge coming up here, so you're going to want to watch your heads. And I am going to take a sip of coffee. I can already feel my voice going. That's not a good sign. This is my first tour back. I've had 6 months to rest my voice. All right, watch your heads as we go underneath this. And I want to draw our attention to this building on the other side of it. This structure right here with that very unique shape. Watch your heads. This is a Harry Weiss. Harry Weiss is a big name architect down here. He's got a very unique style and a favorite shape. Anyone want to place a guess as to what his favorite shape is? Nope, triangle. He loves the triangle, the building itself, shaped triangularly. There's triangles all over it. This is townhomes, basically. This is 4 separate units. Most recently, it sold for about $2.3 million, one of these. That's the kind of money we're talking. After they first built that, nobody moved out for 30 years. So it was kind of popular. They liked it. I'm curious, though, what do y'all think of that triangular building? Yeah, I like it, too. Would you agree that it's in a weird spot? Yeah, I think it should be further north on the river or further south on the river. Being downtown feels a little odd, but I do really like it. Harry Weiss also converted that red brick building into condos. Very nice building. That used to be a giant freezer. It was a cold storage facility for all our freight trains. So the walls are very thick, filled with insulation. It used to be literally like a giant ice box. They had to thaw the building, open all the windows, open up some of the walls, and thaw the building for an entire summer to allow construction to start. So it basically had to thaw a city-sized ice box to start turning into condos. Now we are going to head back onto Wolf Point, which I realize now I did not talk about. Wolf Point is where the river splits off. This is going to be the main branch that we're going to head next. This used to be kind of a very vital area of Chicago. I guess it really still is. But in the early days of the city, this was basically our main port. It was a very important area, and to service all, the sailors and everything that would come through here, every single corner had about 3 different bars on each one. And the Sauganosh Tavern would have been on this corner. And notably, the Sauganosh Tavern, that's where we signed our charter to become a city. So Chicago started at a bar, and that bar was right there. And I was named the Sauganosh Tavern after a person, a specific individual, a Native American named Sauganosh, who later changed his name to Bill Caldwell. It's a very different name, but you'll see Caldwell Avenue, Sauganosh, a lot of those references all over the city. That's because he was a very instrumental part in the founding of Chicago. Now over here on our right, we have this area of the Riverwalk. See down here, you get from here, walk all along the river, and get all the way out to the lakefront. I'm going to get distracted by what looks to be a golden doodle over here. Seems to be having fun. Yeah, you got these chairs out here. You're actually allowed to move these around, hanging out with your friends. It's a very popular spot, particularly when it's sunnier. I want to wave at those people. Hello. And above those people waving, you got that green building with that curved glass front. This is 333 Wacker, and that is designed in what we call contextualism. We're trying to represent some of the context of the city in the building itself. The gray lines, that is designed to mimic Chicago's road system, our grid system. The curvature is designed to match the curve of the river. The green color is designed to match the color of the river. And most Chicago of all is in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's where his dad works. Yeah, that's the important part. There's more people waving. Hello. I want to watch my head just because the river seems a little high today. Now over here on our right, I got a lot of options of what I want to talk about. Let's see. We'll talk about this projector. See over here, this giant bank of black projectors? That is now used to turn this into basically the largest movie screen ever. It's called Art on the Mart. They'll play like music videos, artwork, just real cool little pieces on it. That should be every night during the summer. I don't know exactly when they start. I've got to check the schedule on the way in. But it's a cool little project. People just grab chairs, sit out here. I like it. At first I thought it was kind of a weird idea, but once I saw it in action, I was on board. Now this section of the Riverwalk, oh, we do have another low bridge here, so you're going to want to watch your heads. But this section of the Riverwalk you're going to see the Riverwalk change quite a bit. Thematically, this part is supposed to be our nature-oriented spot. So you got those floating gardens there, all those little piers. This should be our more summery spot, which would be great if it wasn't for unseasonable coldness on Memorial Day weekend. But this has these 0-point fountains you could run through that whole like gray area back there. That's like a giant fountain. You got gelato, you got the boat docks, and above it, you got a building with a very boring name. This is called the Builders Building. Right part was built in the 1980s as an addition to the left part, which was built in the 1930s. So you can see that style in the 30s, how ornamented and decorative it is, and that cleaner, sleeker style on the right of it. So I just like using that to kind of illustrate how different we thought about architecture in just that span of 50 years. Watch your heads here. And yeah, a lot of different styles will be born in Chicago, and you see a lot of architectural evolution. Basically, this is where you come as an architect to learn architecture. Now here on our right, this section of the Riverwalk is designed to be like stadium seating. We'll sometimes pull up a barge over here with like a play on it. Then you got this blue building with a balcony about halfway up. That is 111 Wacker, and that was originally going to be a luxury hotel. But they ran out of money during the 2008 financial crisis, had to abandon the construction site entirely because the company went under. And they sold the lot to another company, which decided instead of turning this into luxury housing. So the rooms, they're small, like hotel rooms would be. The prices are not. A 3-bedroom in there, over $12,000 a month. And that's an apartment. You gotta pay that every month. Actually, I did not check those prices. They're probably higher this year. That's from last year. That would have been last October. Now over here on our right, we got this tall black building with the popped out corners. That is the Leo Burnett building. Those corners are designed to give them more corner offices. And you'll see we have 33% more corner offices here. And this would be the Leo Burnett advertising agency, which we would recognize from a lot of ad campaigns: Marlboro Man, Green Giant, Snap, Crackle and Pop, Toucan Sam. And a man named Draper Daniels was an advertising executive there. That's where you get the name Draper Daniels. Don Draper. Yeah. Draper Daniels becomes Don Draper from Mad Men, based on that executive out there. Now, as we come up under this bridge, we're going to see, and don't worry, I heard a lot of you talk about this building. We'll talk about this on our way back. It is a very cool structure. I'm not going to ignore it, I promise. But ahead of us, for now, we have a really good view of this. You get that green and gold skyscraper. See that gold top and that green bottom there? That is the Carbon and Carbide building, and that color scheme looks really unique because the gold up there isn't just like gold spray paint or anything like that. It's actual gold, like real gold, 24 karat gold lining the top of that, green at the bottom, gold at the top. A very strange color scheme. It was actually the first fully colored skyscraper built in the United States, and that color scheme was chosen so the building would look like a giant bottle of champagne as a way to protest prohibition. It was the Burnham brothers who designed that. They designed that to look like that. And prohibition, this is what I want to kind of transition into. I don't know if you know about prohibition in Chicago, but it didn't go great. For example, on our right, you got the Jewelers building. See the building with all the domes on the corners, and then that top dome? The top dome more recently was the architectural showroom of Helmut Young. Before that, though, it used to be an illegal bar, a speakeasy on top of the city called the Stratosphere Lounge, supposedly run by Al Capone's outfit directly. And if you wanted to complain about something like that, this illegal bar on top of the city, you wanted to complain to the mayor, Al Capone, or the chief of police, I'll give you one guess where you would have found him. All right up there. Would have been Mayor Big Bill Thompson, widely considered the most corrupt mayor in history. I actually openly campaigned with Al Capone. Now here on our right, you have the Royal Sonesta Hotel and that penthouse up there. That's where they filmed The Dark Knight. That would have been the penthouse that Bruce Wayne lived in when they were filming The Dark Knight. And they film all over the city. I heard you guys earlier talk about movies, like that one. Yeah, we film all over the city. Down here, Lower Wacker Drive, recognize Batmobile scenes. There's just a ton of filming happening down here all the time. It's actually really cool to see, even though it's annoying when you're just trying to get to work and you get interrupted, but it's still kind of awesome to see. Now over here on our left, actually, I'm going to warn you ahead of time. This is our lowest bridge of the tour, so be very careful as we go underneath this. Watch your heads. And then, while we're going underneath this bridge, I want to talk about this building on our left-hand side. You see this building that looks like they just airdropped a cathedral onto the roof? That is the Tribune Tower, formerly the home of the Chicago Tribune. Actually, it's been converted into housing since. Still kind of blows my mind. That was just a few years ago. But this was designed to be the, quote, most beautiful office building in the world. It was a contest. They offered a $100,000 grand prize to whoever could come up with that winning design. And that was run by Colonel Robert McCormick, owner of the Tribune. And eventually the winning design went to Howells and Hood. So that look right there. And then later on, they added my favorite part. Is anyone taking a walk around the Tribune Tower? I recommend it. It's pretty cool. So we have bricks from all over the world and all over history embedded in the building. So you'll see like one brick from like the Taj Mahal, Great Wall of China, Roman Colosseums. It's like taking an abbreviated walking communities kind of settled nearby. So you ended with this really interesting mix. I mean, it gives it a really unique style to it. And at this point, I have a lot of things I could talk about. Kind of already seen all this stuff. But what I'd rather do right now is test my memory, see if you guys have questions about stuff or anything you're curious about. I want to see what I remember. Anything that you are curious about or a question about? Anybody? Bueller. Oh, over here. How deep is the river? Fluctuates quite a bit, roughly about 30 feet or so. And it changes a lot because the Chicago Harbor lock system, we used to kind of regulate the flow of water in the river. Sometimes we have to open it up to keep things through. Sometimes we've had flooding so bad that I get a day off work because our boats can't fit under the bridges. That was when I worked on a much smaller boat too, so it can get pretty bad. I will talk a little bit about the river while I'm thinking about it. But there is a really cool thing you've seen that I talked a little bit about already. The pollution level on the river relates to something that we do that's actually pretty awesome. Have you seen when we dyed the river green for St. Patrick's Day? That is actually something that started off as an anti-pollution tracking measure. So Mayor Daley hired the Plumbers Union to figure out where all these illegal outflow pipes were dumping water into the river. And they decided the easiest way to do this was not to send divers down there, that'd be pretty expensive. They put in a little bit of green dye along the coast, just walked along it. Then you'd see it start to move if there was an outflow pipe. Then you could send down divers and shut it down that way. While the Plumbers Union was doing this, they realized, hey, this doesn't take a lot of dye. But actually, we could dye this pretty cheaply. But they decided, as the Plumbers Union, they're going to get together every year, put a little bit of their dues money aside, and they're going to dye the river bright green for St. Patrick's Day. And they now have it down to a science. They put in about 40 pounds of this orange vegetable-based dye, hits the air, turns green, hits the water, stays green, and it dyes the river bright green for about 2, maybe 3 days. Perfect time. First year that they did it, they used 100 pounds of dye, dyed the river bright green for a month. And that was too much. But we do that every year, St. Patrick's Day. That is run by the Plumbers Union still. I think it's a really cool thing that we do. And yeah, it was all about tracking pollution. Now I'm trying to think of other stuff I want to talk about. This bridge, yeah, this is a rolling bridge. It actually rolls on the little things you can see back here. This all does kind of still get, it doesn't really get used anymore. I mean, yes, theoretically we could, but we don't really need it. Yeah, this is this whole area, by the way. I don't know if I addressed this. All of this, about a mile or two that way, mile or two that way, mile or two that way, was all one giant railroad junction infrastructure. So all this
Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go.